Then when we get to the list of their projections, we see, oh, these people are just foolish. These people just aren't very smart at all.
ESPN just did the unthinkable, and fans are furious. They actually ranked Aya Wilson above Caitlin Clark. Like, are we watching the same sport? Caitlin's out here breaking records, redefining the game, and single-handedly elevating women's basketball to new heights. Meanwhile, Aya's hype seems to come more from her fan base than her actual impact lately. So what's really going on here, ESPN? Is this bias, an agenda, or just a calculated move to avoid Aya Wilson getting exposed next to Clark's greatness?
Clark is listed number 2. All right, some of y'all are going to be mad. Only behind WNBA MVP A'ja Wilson.
ESPN really did a thing, and I've got to say, it's got me questioning their entire operation. Their latest rankings just dropped, and somehow, someway, Aya Wilson is sitting above Caitlin Clark. I'm sorry, but what kind of math are they using over there? Because it's definitely not the kind that makes sense. Let's be real, Caitlin Clark is the reason the WNBA is exploding right now. She's breaking records, selling out arenas, and turning casual viewers into diehard fans debating season tickets. She's a walking highlight reel, a human torch, the most electric thing to happen to the league in years. And yet, ESPN has the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to rank Aya Wilson above her? For what reason exactly? What has Aya done that even comes close to Caitlin literally reshaping the trajectory of women's basketball?
This ranking came after a big first year that saw the Indiana Fever playmaker average 19.7 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 8.4 assists, by the way, that led the league, 1.3 steals, and 0.7 blocks per game. And if I remember correctly, Caitlin Clark actually had averaged more block shots than Angel Reese. I believe that's a thing. So, let's all get a laugh together here, because this is the list.
All right, here comes the classic defense. Aya Wilson has 2 MVPs and championships. Yeah, cool story. But let's not pretend she earned those in the same spotlight Caitlin's under right now. Aya was dominating in a league that barely had a fraction of the attention it does today, before Caitlin Clark walked in and flipped the script. It's like being the star of a high school play and then acting shocked when an A-list Hollywood actress steps on stage and everyone suddenly pays attention. Caitlin's not just playing the game, she's changing the entire ecosystem around it. She's pulling ratings the WNBA's never seen before. People who couldn't name a single player last year are now rearranging their schedules, debating if they should tune into a Fever game. And that's not hype, that's impact.
Clark should have won it because of the viewership, because of the sellout arenas, because of basically the overall resuscitating, if you will, of the league.
Meanwhile, Aya's biggest contribution to the league is, what exactly? Camping in the paint and catching media hype? The narrative that Aya Wilson is the face of the WNBA has been pushed for years, but let's be honest, it never really clicked. The ratings weren't there, the arenas weren't full, and the buzz was non-existent. Then Caitlin Clark shows up, and suddenly the whole sports world can't stop talking about the WNBA. Tickets are selling out, merch is flying, highlights are everywhere, and casual fans actually care. Yet somehow ESPN still ranks her below Aya. Make it make sense. It's like ranking an old Nokia brick phone over the latest iPhone. Sure, it works, but nobody's choosing it over the newer, faster, more exciting thing that's redefining the game. Caitlin Clark is the moment. She's the culture shift, the energy surge, the reason WNBA Twitter has more activity than ever. The fact that ESPN keeps pretending otherwise, still clinging to this tired Aya Wilson narrative, isn't just misguided, it's downright laughable.
You know, the Olympic Committee, remember all those women, those hateful, spiteful women? Dawn Staley's one of them, if I remember correctly, was involved in that. Cheryl Reeve, the coach, number 2 player in the entire league, not on the Olympic team. Just pointing that out. And of course, you did have some haters. Please, Clark is not better than Stewie, Fee, or Inescu. Clark is not better than Stewart. They glazing Clark is not better than Inescu, blah, blah, blah. No matter what Caitlin Clark does, she's going to have some haters out there. It's just, they're losing their mind.
And let's not act like ESPN doesn't have a history of this nonsense. They've always had their favorites, and they'll defend them to the bitter end, no matter how disconnected from reality it looks. Meanwhile, the actual generational talent who's dragging the league into the mainstream conversation is being treated like an afterthought. This isn't even about who's better anymore. It's about who's making a real impact. And if you honestly believe Aya Wilson is doing more for the league than Caitlin Clark, congratulations. You might qualify for an ESPN internship, because apparently logic is optional over there. You can't fight reality. Caitlin Clark is the best thing that's ever happened to the WNBA. The crowds, the numbers, the headlines, it's all her. And ESPN refusing to acknowledge that in their rankings doesn't prove expertise. It proves one thing: they don't actually know ball.
I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She's carried a heavy load for our sport, and it's not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. When she's the #1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's going to lift that league as well. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Do I agree with ESPN? Let's be real for a second. Caitlin Clark isn't just the biggest name in women's basketball, she's the biggest name in basketball, period. Fans are doing everything short of selling a kidney just to score a ticket to her games. The numbers don't lie. Viewership is through the roof, arenas are packed, and people who've never watched a second of women's hoops are suddenly tuning in like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But somehow ESPN still wants to push Aya Wilson as the top player. Be for real. Her so-called reign is cracking faster than a cheap IKEA shelf. The aces are falling apart. Kelsey Plum, Sydney Colson, Chelsea Gray, all the key pieces either leaving, injured, or in decline. Meanwhile, Caitlin's over here rewriting what it means to be a superstar. Is this conversation helpful so far?
Oh, I understand that it can be a little bit funny watching the aces implode. It can be funny watching the aces implode. I'll say it. It can be funny. If you're not a fan of the aces, just in general, like if you are not a fan of a team, watching them implode is always fun if you're not a fan of that team. Especially if you're not, don't particularly like them. But what's happening to the aces is mental. It is absolutely mental. I don't know what's going on.
And then there's Aya Wilson, standing in the wreckage trying to convince everyone it's fine. Spoiler alert, it's not fine. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has stepped into the WNBA like she owns the league, and honestly, she kind of does. She's not just bringing talent, she's bringing power. This isn't just about scoring buckets, it's about shifting the entire culture of the game. Every single Caitlin Clark matchup has turned into an event. Cities are literally adjusting schedules around her appearances. We've got NFL fans, baseball fans, even random guys who couldn't name a single other WNBA player, all showing up just to see her play. That's not hype, that's impact. So ESPN, let's call it what it is. That's MVP behavior.
Attracting attention to their sport. So for some people, it seems like it's an overnight sensation with Caitlin Clark. But as I said, the WNBA has been at it for 28 years. Caitlin Clark is just blowing up the internet. It's wonderful to see. But there's been a really strong foundation there for many years. And so I think the WNBA now and women's basketball is just going to continue to grow leaps and bounds.
And Aya Wilson's fans? Oh, they're big mad. Acting like they don't see what's right in front of them. Yes, Aya's a 2-time MVP, and that was cute while it lasted. But let's be honest, the Caitlin Clark era has officially arrived. The WNBA has entered its double C phase, and nothing's the same anymore. But back to ESPN because they need to be called out. These folks are bending over backwards trying to pretend Caitlin Clark isn't the face of the league. Every stat, every ticket sale, every metric that actually matters screams she should be leading MVP talks. Yet somehow ESPN's still running with their Aya agenda. Like, be serious, her team's literally falling apart like a bad reality TV marriage and you're still pushing the same narrative? Come on.